Respect. Coming in at number 9 is Chris Jericho. Now, Chris Jericho did something in wrestling that a few guys have ever done. He is the first ever undisputed champion. He beat The Rock and Stone Cold in the same night. And that made him into a 5 time world champion in professional wrestling. Then he became a 6 time world champion. He's wrestled everyone. He's fought Triple H, Stone Cold, The Rock, Kurt Angle. He even wrestled China. How many men are willing to go into a ring with a woman and fight China? He did it 3 times. He had matches with Edge and Christian, Randy Orton. He's had a longevity career. He's been in the game for 2.5 decades. Leave WWE, go over to AEW and become champion again. And then wrestle Kenny Omega. I mean, come on. The guy is showing you that he can outlast other talents. And some people are shocked that he's like another Shawn Michaels. I mean, they compare him. I saw his career in WCW when he was called the Lionheart, and he was good. The guy can be athletic. When he got to WWE, they called him Y2J. And he got to be kind of like the hero of WWE. He did win tag titles. He did win the Intercontinental title like 6 or 7 times. He had high profile matches. And sometimes they would bury Chris Jericho, and Jericho had an ability to play it off. But Jericho made other people look good in his matches. This was a guy who gave you his heart and his soul. So I hope he get in the Hall of Fame. I'd be mad if he's not. Coming in at number 8 is Kurt Angle. Now, Kurt Angle did something that only a few wrestlers can do. That is actually, and I mean this, win championships in a brief period. Most wrestlers don't do that. Kurt made himself a 6 time world champion, 3 time European champion, 3 time or 4 time Intercontinental champion, 6 time tag team champion, and he did it in a short period. Like he came in 1999 and was gone by 2007. That's like 6.5 to maybe 7 years. Goes to TNA and wins 5 different championship belts at once to prove to his former employer, I can get as much success as I can get in WWE. And then come back to the WWE and show that he can still put on a top 5 match. Kurt, to me, is in the Hall of Fame. To me, Kurt Angle is like one of these rare talents that it might be another 25 years before you get somebody that wins a gold medal with a broken neck and is a real legit wrestler. He did it in high school and college. He did it at the Olympics. He comes into the professional circuit and he does it again. Everywhere he goes, he is champion. To me, if anyone is the closest thing to being compared to Bret Hart, it's Kurt Angle. To me, like Kurt Angle comes out as like another Bret Hart. The way that Kurt is technical, the way Bret is technical, the way Kurt makes you look good, the way Bret Hart makes you look good, the way Kurt is able to not take it personal when he loses. Bret sometimes take it personal, but who don't? Kurt was good. Bret Hart would wrestle injured. Kurt Angle wrestle injured. They're both on the same level. Both have respect for one another. It's just unfortunate that we never got to see Kurt versus Bret Hart. We ended up seeing Kurt versus Shawn Michaels several times. And Kurt beat Shawn Michaels, and that question got answered. But the one question that we wish we could see is what would have happened if Bret stayed in the game much longer and never got the stroke. We could have seen Kurt Angle versus Bret, and it probably would have been the greatest match in history. So you got to give Kurt some respect. Coming in at number 7 is Shawn Michaels, HBK. Now, I like Shawn Michaels. I was a huge, die-hard HBK fan from the days of the 1990s. He came with the sunglasses. He was dancing. He was in there singing. He was showboating. He was cocky. He was arrogant. He got all the chicks, and he would kick ass. And he hit you with the super kick, and then later changed it to the sweet chan music. Now, his career is like he was a rock star and a pretty boy who just happened to fight. And he from Texas? Oh, no, he got a temper. And he became a 3 time Intercontinental champion. He became a 4 time tag team champion, European champion, and he became a 4 time world champion. He won the world heavyweight title, but he won the WWE title 3 times. Now, his matches with Bret Hart will always go down in history as the best. I'm talking about WrestleMania 12. That was a good match, not that terrible ass match in 1997 Survivor Series. That's by far one of the worst matches in his career because it wasn't even a good match. I mean, it was like a personal grudge, and they weren't even in character. And that put a cloud over him. He eventually got around from that cloud, had matches with other wrestlers. When he came back in the 2000s to make a comeback in his late 30s, like 36, 37, he showed he could wrestle younger guys and still pull off good matches. You know, wrestling Edge and Christian, you know, battling Chris Jericho, Randy Orton, you know, taking on Batista, John Cena, and for him to win the championship one more time. And then he gave us the matches we thought we would never get from Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker twice at WrestleMania. You know, that ended his career, but Shawn Michaels wanted to retire, so we don't take it personal. You know, he wrestled Ric Flair, his idol. He got to wrestle Hulk Hogan. Should have been a Hulk Hogan part two. You know, and he had classical matches with Triple H, classical matches with Mick Foley, Vader, Stone Cold Steve Austin. So he had matches with everybody, and to this very day, you always look at some of those WrestleMania matches, and you wonder how much more he could have given. I mean, to me, he didn't have to lose to John Cena at WrestleMania, but you understood John Cena was the younger guy, and somebody needed to get over. So Shawn Michaels made those sacrifices. You're not going to find too many wrestlers like Shawn Michaels to do that. Shawn Michaels and eventually got to the level we expect him to get to. So that's why he's on this list. At number 6, it's The Rock, tied with Randy Orton. Both are third generation superstars. Both come from wrestling families. Both have won championships. Both are solidified. Both are legends, both are icons. The Rock, an 8-time world champion. The guy became the youngest Intercontinental Champion until Randy Orton broke that record. Yeah, The Rock wrestled a lot of people. Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho, Stone Cold, Undertaker and Kane, Triple H. He battled back and forth with all these guys. Big Show, Mark Henry. You name them, The Rock beat them. Now, one of my favorite matches is when he lost to Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania. Gets a WrestleMania rematch, and then The Rock done something I thought he would never do. He beat Stone Cold in their third and final match at a WrestleMania. Then he fights Goldberg. Then he fights Brock Lesnar. Then he comes back and give us a tag team match with Mick Foley against Ric Flair, Randy Orton, and Batista. Then he gives us a match we thought would never happen. The Rock versus John Cena part 1 and part 2. Beats John Cena, loses in the rematch. Comes back again, beats Bray Wyatt. So The Rock shows that no matter how old he gets, he still has the charisma, the it factor. If you smell what The Rock is cooking, it doesn't matter what your name is. Shut your mouth and know your role, jabroni. On the other hand, we have Randy Orton, who's a third generation superstar. Father and grandfather, wrestling royalty. Randy Orton comes in and does something that the father and grandfather ain't never accomplished and done. Become a world champion at a young age. Yeah, the storyline was Randy won it from, he beat out a certain guy. We don't want to say his name. We don't want the video to get hit and demonetized, but he won the belt from a certain man. And Triple H took the title from Randy Orton. And this set up Randy Orton's character, the Legend Killer. Because once we seen Randy fight guys like Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho, Batista, John Cena, he was taking out legend after legend. Then his character evolved from Legend Killer to the Viper to the Apex Predator. And basically, he's been in for like almost 15, 16 years, and he is a 12-time world champion. Now, he's had a lot of good matches, and he will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Now, to me, I felt that when he got brought up at the right time. Now, if anyone can kind of be better than The Rock, it would probably be Randy Orton, but they're on the same level. That's why they're tied at the same list. Randy might have won more championships, but just because you win more championships doesn't make you a better wrestler. But Randy's better than half the guys on this list because Randy's a natural talent. He thrives off this. This is what he eats, sleeps, and breathes. Yeah, he's got a mean temper. He might do some stuff backstage that's highly questionable, might get into some trouble. Who hasn't? The Rock in his earlier days would get in trouble backstage. So, and they talk, it would have been nice if we could have saw Randy Orton and The Rock at a WrestleMania. It would have happened. I would have not cared who won or lost the match. All right, coming in at number 5 is Bret Hart and Booker T. Now, both are tag team specialists. Both are technical wrestlers. Both are legends and icons. Both have won championships everywhere they gone. Bret Hart from family wrestling royalty. Father was still Hart. God rest his soul, rest in peace. We got his brother Owen Hart. God rest his soul, rest in peace. We got Jimmy Nonville Hart. God rest his soul, rest in peace. We have the brother-in-law British Bulldog Davy Boy Smith, God rest his soul, rest in peace. Bret Hart managed to win the championship 5 times in WWE. Wrestled with one company for 13 years. He's won the Intercontinental title twice. He's won the tag titles. The guy's had some of the best matches you can ever think of. And when they say technical, Bret Hart made being technical wrestling something that's respected with class. When you talk about the greats, his name is mentioned. You can't just say guys like Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and Macho Man Randy Savage. You also have to include Bret Hart in that conversation. Bret opened the door for guys to be smaller, not too big, not too stocky, and said it's okay to be a little smaller. Bret, and eventually had those matches. He wrestled Undertaker. He wrestled Kane when he was Isaac Yankem. And then we got to see him have matches with Shawn Michaels. And then he had those matches with Stone Cold Steve Austin, Psycho Sid, Vader, Mankind, Triple H. Then he goes to WCW and his career's ruined because it wasn't the same Bret Hart. Yeah, he wrestled Sting, he wrestled Booker. Only when he came to wrestling Booker T, we saw flashes of the old Bret Hart in his prime. And he looked good against Booker. On the other hand, Booker T's a guy that came from nowhere, comes into wrestling, and becomes a tag team specialist. He wins the tag team titles 10 times with his brother Stevie Ray. Then he breaks away in the singles competition. He wins the United States television title 4 times. Then he becomes the WCW heavyweight champion. He beats Kevin Nash. Then he beats Hulk Hogan. All of a sudden, he takes out Scott Steiner. That's 3. And then he wrestles Goldberg. And you see, when he did this, he was just winning the belt. Like Booker said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, I like Booker T's career in WCW. To me, that was the real Booker T. When he got to WWE, they were putting him in matches that made him look stupid, made him look silly. They made him jobber out to other guys when it was unnecessary. Like, he's on the same level as The Rock. Why he has to lose to The Rock? Why has he got to keep losing to Stone Cold Steve Austin? Why has he got to lose to all these other guys? And then they just made him team up with Goldust. Then they made him team up with all these other guys. And then it wasn't until much later in his career that he got to win the championship to be a 7-time world champion. When he got to TNA, you saw flashes of the WCW Booker T. And to me, Booker T would be the first one to tell you that his career in WCW and TNA was much better than WWE. Yeah, WWE might have made him more rich and famous in wrestling and it paid more, but he had the better career in WCW and TNA wrestling. And the fact that he got to be the next guy that was black that won the championship, it's why he's even high on the list, tied with Bret, because he had matches. And Bret kind of was impressed that he could be that technical for a big guy and still pull it off. The dance moves, what he did in WCW, I mean, he was good. He was technical. All right, coming in at number 4 is Triple H and Sting. Triple H is a 13-time world champion. Sting is a 13-time world champion. Now, Triple H did wrestle Sting in WCW before we even know who Michael Paul Lewinsky was. Sting saw Triple H was going to become the greatest wrestler of all times. And you fast forward 25 years later, and these guys are wrestling each other at a WrestleMania. Now, when we saw that match, the person that should have won the match was Sting, but business purposes wise, you can understand why Triple H won the match. It set Sting up to win his first WWE title. And why is it kept closed? Triple H had a career. He went from Hunter Hearst Helmsley to, losing the accent to becoming the Game. 1999, he packed on 40 pounds of muscle. All of a sudden, he had the blue jacket, the badass heavy metal music. And in case you forgot who I am and you don't know the name, I am the Game, Triple H. And then he became the King of Kings, the Cerebral Assassin. Yeah, great matches with Stone Cold Steve Austin. The Rock, Chris Jericho. He wrestled all these guys. And the fact that he got to show the next generation how you really dominate was impressive. He brought in Randy Orton and Batista and created Evolution. And then he created that group. And it was nice to see that group make a return in wrestling. And he's been around for 25 years. We know he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and we know he's going to be around for a lot longer than that. If anyone should take over WWE, it should be Triple H because he did an outstanding job with NXT. So he shows that he's just as good in the ring as he is outside the ring. Yeah, he does clash with his father-in-law backstage. Who doesn't? On the other hand, you've got Sting, a guy who won 13 championships by the old-fashioned way, blood, sweat, and tears. Never asked nobody to give him a handout, got discovered by Hulk Hogan, and has never looked back ever since. Wrestled everyone, beat everyone. And there's this one match that people just wish we could have seen. Sting versus The Undertaker. You wish you could get it. I mean, it's too late to get it because they're way past their primes. No disrespect to the legends and icons. But had we got Sting versus Undertaker 2001, 2002, where they can really go, that would have been worth watching. I mean, he wrestled Goldberg, Lex Luger, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man. He wrestled Bret Hart. He wrestled Chris Jericho. Comes in the WWE in that short period before he had his neck injury. And he wrestled Seth Rollins. He tag teamed with Roman Reigns. He told John Cena he was the best thing he ever seen. He was also the tag team partner of the late, great Ultimate Warrior. And he got to do a eulogy speech when he passed. So, yeah, you got to have Sting on this list. So that's why they're on the list tied. Coming in at number 3 is Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, Stone Cold Steve Austin is a guy who had a late start in his career. Yeah, he was in WCW as the famous Blondes with Brian Pillman. And then he went to ECW, and then he made his way to WWE as the Ringmaster, and nobody cared. And it wasn't until Stone Cold broke out of character, became himself, beat Jake the Snake Roberts at the 1996 King of the Ring, and gave this famous wrestling speech worldwide with claim, Austin 316 says, I just whooped your ass. Next night, everyone's got t-shirts of Austin 316 with the Terminator. And the theme song of the glass breaking, rattlesnake coming at you, the rock song by Disturbed. When you heard the theme song, you knew you was going to get your ass whooped. Stone Cold Stunner, 2 of them, 3 stunners, 4 stunners. Finished the match, damn it, give me a damn beer. Give me another one, give me another one. All of a sudden you go, oh, hell yeah. That was Stone Cold in his prime. Matches with Mick Foley, Vader, Psycho Sid, Triple H, The Rock, Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho. Those were his best matches. But he got his neck broken. Then Stone Cold the career started to fall apart around 2001, 2002, 2003, retired. Had a 15-year career. Managed to win the championship 6 times. And the fact that he got the most fame, the most attention, is because he was being pushed to become his own individual. This is where Vince kind of, said we can't go with the Hulk Hogan route. We need to just let this be its own thing. And that's why it worked. On the other hand, we've got Goldberg, a guy that played professional football, a guy whose career was short-lived in the NFL. Yeah, he was with the Atlanta Falcons. He played 5 years. Then he got shafted. He got sent to the LA Rams. Then he got shafted. Then he found himself playing with another football team, the Carolina Panthers, when the NFL took teams that were a part of another league and brought them into the NFL. And then he did NASCAR for a short while. And then he made his way into wrestling. Come in the 1997 Starrcade, beats a guy in 10 seconds, looks at the camera, takes the microphone, and said, all I want to know is, who's next? And it becomes his logo. He became the first wrestler in history that you didn't need to put no words to his theme song. The fans were the words to the theme song. Go Bird, go Bird. When you heard that name, you getting your ass whooped. It didn't matter if you were big, didn't matter if you was tough, didn't matter who you was. Hulk Hogan, Sting, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Scott Steiner, you getting speared. 2 spears, 3 spears, 4 spears. And the fact that he only had limited moves, the way he beat the giant Big Show, the way he came in there at 31 years old and won the heavyweight champion title twice. You know, tag titles, television title, beats Booker T, beats Scott Steiner, turns around again, crosses over into WWE, goes against Triple H, goes against Mark Henry, goes against Undertaker and Kane. And then, you know, he beats Brock Lesnar, and then we turn around again. He comes back to the WWE and goes at it with Brock Lesnar. Then we get Goldberg versus Undertaker. Now, to me, that match was like 15, 20 years too late. It should have happened 10 years earlier where they were still in their primes. Goldberg tried his best, but in the end, Undertaker won the match dissatisfied. Undertaker wanted that undefeated Goldberg. And I understand how Mark Calloway felt. The match could have been much better. I mean, we saw him go against other guys. And to me, Goldberg in his prime couldn't be touched. Now, the Goldberg we see today is still Goldberg, but the WCW Goldberg had that undefeated streak. And, of course, Scott Hall had to end it. Damn you, Scott Hall. But my point is, the WCW Goldberg today, oh, he would have whooped everybody's ass. No question, doubt about it. He eventually won the title in WWE 3 times. So he's won the title like at least 6 times. Coming in at number 2 is Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is like Bob Backlund all over again. What happens when you get some Bob Backlund and you get some Scott Steiner and some Vader? What do you get? You get Brock Lesnar. You get the next big thing. I didn't say it right. Paul Heyman would probably hit me upside my head. Let me say it in the way Paul Heyman said. Brock Lesnar wrestles in high school, college, goes and wins a double NCAA heavyweight championship.